What is your opinion about an 18-hour workday? Yeah. And I'm like, oh wow, this got really viral. My dad used to make me do chores at home and I used to get paid for it. I will do. But if I fall, I have my support system. Within a month, basically, I ended up going to Mr. Mahindra's office and saying, you have 0 women on ground as field engineers. Why? We have a business in the Philippines and $3 million. Do you want to go run it? And I'm like, what is this business? Things that happen in the US, that logic does not apply in India.
Welcome to the BarberShop, Bhavna. Thank you so much for taking the time and coming. We started the BarberShop as a place for entrepreneurs to come and share and go deeper. The idea is to make entrepreneurship human. The fundamental belief is that in India, entrepreneurship is becoming mainstream. And the moment something becomes mainstream, then superstars become godly and then they become untouchable. Right? What happened with Sachin or PV Sindhu or in Bollywood with all our actors and all of that. So they become unrelatable for the common people. And fundamentally, my belief is that India needs to create, I think statistically India needs to create 1 million jobs a month.
Yeah.
We're at 200,000.
Yeah.
So that deficit will only be created if everyone becomes entrepreneurial in their own way. Not entrepreneurs or raising millions of dollars, but in their own life, in their own way, aspire. Sure. And it's also a very aspiring generation. So after this conversation, if any of our listeners thinks that, hey, this is something I can actually do, like listening to Bhavna or Shantanu or any of our people who have come makes it relatable, then we have kind of achieved our purpose. So that's the objective, and thank you so much for coming.
No, I'm super excited to be here. I mean, like, when we spoke about it, you and I know each other from LinkedIn a little bit. I think we both are very similar in a way where we try saying our truth just as, and then there's conflicting opinions. But yeah, I think that's the only way, right? I think like you, I think I say what I say and I come for these things because the intent is, listen, to speak your truth and say it's not always all rosy. It's hard, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
And if I can do it, you can, and so can everybody. And I think all of us deep down know, right? That's the only thing that we have left.
Yeah, but tell me a little bit about what got you to start 10 Club. And we were talking about your childhood outside the country, but
I'm gonna go into my monologue because I don't think anything I have done is ever planned. And I think now that I'm in my 30s, I question if life should be a little bit more structured and planned. But I don't think anything in my life has ever been planned. And I love that about it. The fact that I have 0 expectations. I love whatever life throws and I'm like, oh shit, okay, we'll figure it out. And I think it prepares you for everything. And I think everything, who you are, what you are, your fears, the confidence that you get, it all comes from your childhood, right? Whatever anyone says, I don't think there's molding too much that you control. A lot of it is how you're brought up, what your surrounding is, what your support system is. My theory is I was born to 2 very young parents who had no idea what they were doing.
How old were they?
My mom was 21 and my dad was 24.
Wow. And where was this?
So they met in Bangalore. I'm 3rd generation Bangalorean. My grandparents moved there. My parents were born there. They've known each other their whole life. It was an arranged marriage. And immediately moved. So they moved and I grew up in Oman.
Okay.
Which sounds like the outside, but it is the Middle East. So it is quite protected and it is quite, I'll tell you another story. But the idea is you can become very, very, you can be in a mold and you can never get out and be free. Like, and every time I used to come to India, I used to get scared because I felt like people like way ahead of me, right? I didn't know how to take an auto rickshaw on my own. It would scare me. But I think what ended up happening in all of this was, like I told you, and I don't know if it's intentional or not. I've not asked my parents, but I think my dad and mom had 1 kid, me. Their full attention was on me. They were very strict parents, and I don't know how, because they were so young. But yeah, I think, my dad used to make me do chores at home, and I used to get paid for it. And I had to give an account of where I spent it. So I was like the only kid at school who made her own money, and suddenly I had money and I hated spending it. So it was something like that,
What kind of chores would you do?
Anything. So weekdays was setting the table, washing the dishes. Weekends was my father's car needed to be washed. And at the end of it, I got my weekly wage, which was 1 riyal, which is 100 rupees or something back then, which was a lot of money for a kid.
For a school kid, yeah.
Never spent it. I think never spent it. And I used to love watching that money grow. And my dad would be like, you don't want to buy anything? And I'm like, no. Yeah. But I think that that joy of like doing it on your own, was great. But I think the other parallel of it was, like I told you, I left home at 15. It was too slow. It was too boring. It was too protected. And I was like, okay, now I'm ready to go out. And I think
this 10th grade. 11th grade you came back.
Exactly. At the end of 10th grade, the options when you live abroad or live in the Middle East is you write your SATs, you go to the US, or a brave few kind of come back.
Okay.
Obviously, taking the SATs and going to the US was the easy way out. And I was just like, no, I'm going back to my country and I'm going to figure this out. And it also seemed scary, right? It seemed really scary. And I don't know, there was this weird thing in me where I was like, I will do the scariest thing always. And then we'll figure it out, because if something happens, I can always come back home. And I think that was very interesting, right? That feeling of saying, listen, I will go, I will do. But if I fall, I have my support system. Yeah. And I think that was a very interesting upbringing where you let the person go and you say you fall. And if you don't get up, we'll help you. But try getting up on your own. And I think that's my childhood, right?
Wow.
So, and again, I did not make any of this while I was in the journey. But I think as you grow up and you reflect, where does all this craziness come from? I think it comes from there.
What did your parents do for a living in Oman?
So my mom was a psychiatrist at school. She was actually my counselor.
In your own school?
Yeah, she was the one who did sex education for my class. So it was as embarrassing as it could get. And she's also young, right? So she was one of my closest friends. So she would come and she would make it a point to embarrass me in front of people. I'd be like, okay. So she was a teacher and a counselor. My dad, for 30 years, worked in the tire industry. So he just basically worked for Yokohama Tires out of the Middle East for 30 years.
Sales, was it in the factory? Was it what kind of work?
So a bit of everything.
Okay.
So, 30 years does everything.
Lot,
By the end, retired at the peak of COVID. He's a man who
Now, right? Recently.
Yeah. So he's a man who worked 7 days a week, no holidays, watch that. I don't think I fully agree with that. But, one of those people who says work is everything, you work. But always had time, right? Which is, I went on long drives with him. He would take me to... So that's the thing. I think the idea was there was a lot of like structure, but a lot of freedom of saying, you want to explore art, you want to explore games, you want to explore this, you do that. So I had academics, but I also had 20 things going on the side, which is name the instrument, I have learned it. I have tried learning Hindustani music, Carnatic music, art, basketball, everything, sucked at it all. Right? Which I think is a great skill set of saying, I'm going to try. Oh shit, I suck. And then we're like, okay, try something else. I'm like, okay, suck at it also. But I think that's a great skill set to learn, right? Saying, oh man, I'm not really good at anything, but let's keep trying. Life will work it out. But I think all of this is the crux of...
But were you a very social person? Being a single child, sometimes I wonder whether people who don't have siblings, they find it hard to make social relationships with...
I had really good friends.
Okay.
And I think that's been my story through my life. Like, I have a great set of parents, now a great set of in-laws. Found myself a great partner who I think works for me and I work for him. But siblings have never been a question because I've always had really close friends who do nothing
Blood friends.
Huh?
Blood friends.
Yes, but lots of men and lots of boys.
Lots of men.
Unlike you, there is diversity there. I have my set of women, my set of boys. I have friends across age groups. So I think that's quite interesting.
I am not surprised just having interacted with you for the last half an hour.
But to answer your question, I don't know if I was social. So the answer is, you're a kid who's not really sure. And when you're in it, it sucks, right? When you're not good at anything and you're like, but I think as you grow up, you're like, you can say it like it's a good story.
Yeah. And what happened? Like, you came to India to do what? To do 11th, 12th and in college or?
Yeah, so I came back because I was like, Muscat's too boring. I need to get out. Came to live with my grandmother, which was very interesting because that was a very different play.
In Bangalore?
Yeah. Went back to Bangalore, stayed for a bit, kept shuttling actually between Bangalore and Muscat. I don't know how I did it. And then started doing gigs. Like, I started making my own money. I was a Red Bull girl. It paid so well.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How much would you
10,
do?
15 grand.
A month?
Yeah.
Doing what? Going to colleges and...
So, till I was 18, it was distribution. But as soon as I was 18, I could drive the car.
Okay.
And that pays you really well.
Wow.
So, I used to make 15 grand a month. Back in the day, that was
a lot
more
of money
than you need.
I agree.
Right? So, suddenly I was buying people gifts. I was giving my dad gifts. And my dad was like, okay, do you need me for anything anymore? And I'm like, no. So I think that was interesting, right? And I think with that, as soon as you start making your own money, I don't know how to say this, right? It's not about arrogance or anything. It's just choice.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important thing, where the minute you know you can start making money and become financially independent, you don't have to be disrespectful about anything. But just the fact that I think when you say no, somebody takes you a little bit more seriously and they're like, okay, you have an opinion.
Yeah.
But I think that's the crux of it. I'm a mechanical engineer. Went to a college called Ramaya in Bangalore.
Which batch are you, if you don't mind me asking?
The year I passed out,
Yeah.
2010.
Okay.
Yeah, 2010. I think all of my life skills came into play those 4 years.
Okay.
Because Ramaya is that college where, there were people who would carry guns.
Why? It was a gangster college?
It was a total gangster college.
Fuck.
It's known for its mechanical engineering.
Okay.
I went because it was far away from home, but close enough for me to come back home.
Okay.
And I liked that, and I was living by myself by then.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So my grandmother made
Was
me
it
a
like a
space
hostel
upstairs.
thing? Okay.
No.
Okay.
They made me a place upstairs. They're like, you please live your life. We will live my life separately. So yeah, by 17, I was on my own. And then college happened. And Ramaya was so uncomfortable, but so great. In a way where 300 men, 2 women.
Wow.
It was interesting. It took some time. I've made my closest friends from there. Like all my boys are from there. But yeah, I think engineering went by and now it was time to get a gig, right? Unlike you, I was just like, oh shit, what do I do? 4 years done. So Mahindra came to campus and it was very weird. Everything sounded so boring. The usual suspects came and I was not a consultant. There was no hope. And the recruiter basically kind of lined a bunch of people up and said, we're going to play a sport. And it started raining. And he said, we're going to play football.
Okay.
And I was like, whoa, so interesting. And we played football. And I think he just found me so ridiculous. He was like, this is one girl in the middle of this ocean of men. She wants to play football in the rain. She must really want this job. And I got the job,
Wow.
I was the only one who got it. And then I remember the first day and I was like, ooh, this sounds interesting. The recruitment process was so great. How fun will the job be? Oh my God. The first day I remember landing on induction day and there were like a sea of like 20-year-olds or whatever, like 200, 300 of us in a room. And I was like, this is college again. And then the journey started.
This is like a core tech, like this is a core mechanical job in the auto.
So they kind of recruit in batches and then they train you for a month and then you get assigned, you get distributed.
Okay.
Right? They start looking at you are no hope, you can't go into R&D, you are not a technical person, you are a business person, you are a marketing person, you are back office process person.
Got it.
So they offered me back office process person at the end of 1 month and I was like, dude, look at me. You think you can keep me at office? So I remember fighting quite a bit and then I got Bombay. For some reason, I wanted to go to Bombay. Got Bombay, got HQ. Within a month, basically, ended up going to Mr. Mahindra's office and saying, you have 0 women on ground as field engineers. Why? Then it came back to my supervisor saying, why can't she be? And basically, there was that revolutionary insight a little bit. Became their first woman on-ground engineer, which basically meant I could go to new locations and launch service stations.
Okay.
So imagine this 20-year-old child going into new locations and setting up service stations with 200, 300 mechanics.
Wow.
Right? And they were like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. I got assigned Goa.
Okay.
So imagine spending a year and a half in Goa as a 20-year-old.
This is around 10.
2010, yeah.
So you're servicing Scorpios and
Yeah.
Boleros.
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
the portfolio.
I had a
right?
Bolero. I had a badass Bolero. I was in Goa. I was 20. My friends were visiting me all the time. And it was great. I think that learning was so scary again. Imagine walking into a service station with like men looking at me saying, what are you? Chassis ka hai, pata hai? And I'm like, So, set that up for a year and a half, had a blast. By the end of it, became really good friends with a lot of them, right? I think the biggest lesson there was if you can be nice, if people know that you're not vindictive and you're not going to, and you bring them some value
Yeah.
and you kind of side with them,
Yeah.
age and all that doesn't matter. And I think that's all it was. So, that was the only corporate gig I've ever had.
Wow.
Ever. I think 1.5 years in, I was like, nope, done. Met somewhere along those trips back to Bangalore, met my current co-founder, Deepak.
Okay.
Deepak is, I don't know how old he is, 52, 53 now.
Really?
Yeah. So
Okay.
he was, back in 2010, he had started a digital advertising agency called 22 Feet
Okay.
out of Bangalore. It was our version of a startup back then, where we were helping a bunch of consumer businesses go online and go digital. So social media, all of that. One meeting, one office I went to, and I was like, what am I doing with my life? So I think that's the real. I met him, met the team. It was a very small team, 15, 20 people of very cool people my age. Yeah, 3 weeks later, quit Mahindra, moved to Bangalore, and had like an amazing time for the next 2 years. Watched what hyper growth was from this lens, right? Which is, we were really small and we were growing and growing.
What
and
were you guys doing exactly?
we were a digital agency.
Okay.
Right?
Like Facebook, Google kind of stuff.
Websites. It was digital back in 2011, right? 2010, 2011.
That's very early for this stuff.
It was cool. So the answer was, it was very new, right? It was all content marketing and like websites and campaigns. And, we had brands like Fast Track and Titan and like Red Bull. So, all the cool brands that were doing cool stuff. I remember I was part of the Kingfisher account, and we had so much fun. Like, we were just doing fun things. And we just grew, and we got acquired by DDB Group.
Okay.
And for me, that was like, damn, you could have fun building something. And there was a commercial outcome of that, and it was so interesting to watch.
And were you a co-founder there? Were you
No,
just
I was 22. No, I just joined the team. I was part of the BD team.
Okay.
So the early team, right?
Okay.
So I blame him for everything. I'm like, this is your fault. I come from a middle class family that has jobs. But you trained me to this world, and it was like tasting blood, no? I mean, you're like, oh man, life can be this.
Yeah. What did you taste as a 22? How old were you when the company got acquired?
I think I joined when I was 22, and I left when I was 24.
So in 2 years, like you saw a company being built out.
Yeah, I mean, we were 20 people. We grew to, I think when I left, there were about 200, 250.
Wow.
And like our brands just exploded. We were doing fun stuff. We were having a great time. There really wasn't a creative team. So it was, in an interesting way, it was commercial and creative together.
Yeah.
So, it was a lot of fun, and it was, I think it built a lot of my fundamentals of, if I ever do this on my own, how will I do it? What will I do? What will I not do? And, you already start envisioning yourself as that. And I think that was early signs of, I never said the word I would do it. But, again, like I said, 2014, randomly applied to business school. Actually, somewhere along this, something very interesting happened. I basically at 24 had a tumor right on my face.
Okay.
Right? So like life just came to like a standstill.
Okay.
And I mean, 24-year-old girl, face, paralysis, life, what will happen? So, I mean, everybody collected, everybody got freaked out, everybody had a little bit of their own little drama sequence. And I remember, like my brain, I took a cab alone. I went to Baptist Hospital, which is a big one in Bangalore, walked straight into the doctor's room saying, listen, no one's going to sign off on this. I'm an adult. Remove it out of me. Set a date 2 days from now. I will let my parents know. Somebody will come and sign. Get it out of me.
Where on your face was it?
Here. So it's on my nerve, facial nerve.
Wow.
Right? And
was it like hurting or something?
yeah, it was pretty big. It was large.
That's how you recognize something's wrong.
So we knew it for a couple of years.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I think the fear of taking it out was hard, right? And anyway, I think the net thing was, it happened at a juncture where you're so young and you're like, oh shit, life like flashes up and you're like, at this point, life can change. I mean, it came out like, 22 feet was, it takes something like that in your life to realize who your troops are. And yeah, friends, family, everybody came together. It was long. It was a 6 months process. The tumor came out, but my face was paralyzed for 6 months. And then
Are you serious?
I still have a little bit of it. you can't make out now, maybe.
It's completely
Yeah, but when so yeah, I think people who know me can tell, people who can't, it's been 10 years. So, I mean, it's been about 8 years, so it's okay. But I think that was a very big turning point, right? Where you suddenly realize you have that strength in you where you're like, what's the worst that'll happen? We'll figure it out. And you take it. So I think it was that turning point where I said, okay, I'm going to do something more scarier. Applied to, for some reason, I wanted to live abroad. So I applied to France, AGC, got in. 3 months later, I was in France. And I think business school changes you, right? When you're in a group of like 100 to 120 people with such diverse views. 1 month into school, I started my first venture. It's called Style Bank. Got it tattooed on myself. Like I was that confident about it. It was a fashion rental platform. I was inspired by Rent the Runway happening in the US. Built it for 2 years.
In India?
While I was in Paris. Found myself a co-founder in India.
You built it in Paris for India?
Yeah. I was doing all my sourcing, all of that for India.
That's an interesting thing actually, because you had access to fashion there.
Yeah. So I did there, which was not available in India. Did not know India will not pay. As a 20, whatever, you don't. I think harsh lessons learned there and a little bit of come back to earth.
I launched a 3,000 rupee razor. Been there in terms of people don't pay for things that you love so much.
Yeah. So that's my biggest stuff. You are not the customer. You please figure out who the customer is. So, built it through school. Great building it at school, right? Money came from them, structure came from them, full classes available to do everything for you. So it was a great journey. Came back to India, failed beautifully. And then found myself exactly where I was. I was like, oh shit, what happened? I'm full circle.
When was this?
2015. Okay. I came, 14 I went, 15 and I came back. Yeah, failed. Decided to actually had money in the bank and said, I'm going to give this back. Cannot do this. Too hard. Never again.
How much had you raised?
Very little, yeah. To 300, 400K.
That's sizable.
I mean, for back in the day, we didn't have, so it was interesting. It was nice. It was not working at all. Nobody was willing to rent. Nobody was willing to pay. Then had an opportunity overnight, like one day I got an email, like one of those situations where you say, oh shit, now what? And I think every time you ask the universe, oh shit, now what? Something will come. So next morning I had this random email in my thing it was Rocket Internet with another private equity firm saying, hey, we found your profile. We have a business in the Philippines and $3 million. Do you want to go run it? And I'm like, what is this business? And they were like, real estate marketplace. And I'm like, Philippines real estate marketplace. When do I need to join? 3 weeks. It's like, I did it. So I was on a flight a week from then.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and...
You're right. This 2015, I'm assuming housing would be big. Like in India was at that time seeing like a lot of these businesses becoming really big very quickly.
I didn't do all of that math. Nothing. None of that happened. I was like, Philippines, real estate, $3 million. Can I build this? What's the worst that can happen? Let's do it. And that's all it was. Spent the next 4 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So built it differently this time. And I think what changed is I went to a country I knew nothing about, knew no one. So just started having conversations, talking to people, asking them, not being the customer, but asking people. And built a sizable business that today is Philippines and Indonesia's largest real estate marketplace.
Wow.
We were profitable. We were 10 times more expensive than the next player.
That's amazing.
And then 2019, we actually...
Was this like a listing? Like a market? When you say market,
classifieds. It's a classifieds play that
for
pivoted.
And buying both.
Yeah, that pivoted. Actually, not pivoted, but added brokerage. So we also started selling.
Wow.
But I built the classifieds business. We sold it in 2019. We got acquired by a group called EMPT in the Middle East. 2019. And 2 months after we sold, the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
So spent the next 6.5 months managing a merger through a pandemic.
Okay.
It was something else.
Yeah,
it was really something else. Yeah, that's my whole story. I happen to be in Dubai because that's the headquarters of the company. And that's where I met my other co-founder over coffee. I got introduced.
Okay.
And I met Joel there for coffee in June 2020.
Okay.
One coffee. And he said, listen, I heard you just sold your company. Would you be interested to do something with me? And my husband looked at me and he's like, you told me 6 months you were not going to do anything. You have not finished working for the other company yet. And I'm like, oh shit, it sounds interesting. So yeah, that's how 10 Club happened. Joel brought me the idea. I said I was not going to do anything unless we did research, understood everything. So 6 months, we just asked all the hard questions. My first phone call went to Deepak, like I always do. And I was like, hey, something cool is happening. He was like, okay, let's talk. That's how it happened. We
So
spent
you, Deepak and Joel have started 10 Club
Yeah.
together. Wow. And there's been 2.5 years?
15 months.
15 months.
So Jan last year was when we officially said pen to paper, let us start. July was when the money came in.
Okay.
The teams came in a little earlier because we were quite confident we would raise.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, Jan was when we put pen to paper. April was when the first few team members came in. July was when we closed the money. And yeah, we've been operating since October last year, so a little less than a year.
Wow. Tell me about Deepak, Joel, and you. But first, before that, tell me about your husband.
Tell me about my husband. Oh, so sweet.
It's a
No,
full story, but like he's come in bits and pieces through and through, but I don't know his name.
I mean, we've been together for a while.
Okay.
I think a lot of the crazy could not have happened without him. In a way where he's the you go fly.
Uh-huh.
I met him at first day of Mahindra. So my first gig, first day, he was my buddy.
Oh, really?
He was the only person in that office I could talk to. So he's like, go take care of that girl. Nobody else can talk to her. But yeah, that's where we met. And
What's his name? Sorry.
Varun.
Okay.
Yeah, he was with Mahindra. We were friends for really long. We were dating very different people.
Okay.
So foundation is friendship. This was Bombay. Yeah, then I think after Mahindra, he's only had 2 gigs, Mahindra, and then he moved to Uber. He launched Uber India. And back in 2013, he moved to Bangalore. And we happened to get a drink. And we were like, oh, we're both single now. Great. Maybe there is something here. But yeah, he's been there since I was 2013. So all my Paris back, Philippines back. We've been on a long distance throughout.
And when do you guys get married?
2018. So I think he was visiting me. It's the same style as anything else, right? Both of us, I think we've been together for a while. People were just 5 years of long distance, not even the same city, not even the same country. We were in like different places. But yeah, I think we just woke up one day and we were like, time to get married. No courage to kind of get the parents to meet. So actually packed both sets of parents away to Sri Lanka on a holiday alone without us. And we were like, sorry guys, too awkward. You'll figure it out. Luckily they got along, had a blast. And yeah, 2 months later, Varun and I found a date at court and got married.
Wow. And he's still with Uber?
He doesn't like me saying this, but he retired 3 years ago.
Really?
He says he made his money. And yeah, he was with Uber for like 7 years.
Wow.
And made his money. Now he climbs mountains. So he spends 6 months in a year climbing mountains. And the rest of the year he's in the markets.
Wow, that's incredible. But tell me about 10 Club.
What about 10 Club? There's so much to say.
What is the genesis of the idea? What did Joel tell you?
Let me tell you a little bit about Joel. Joel is a American venture capitalist.
Okay.
Sitting out of Dubai. I think he's 32. I'm not sure. He never tells me how old he is. Just a really nice guy. Like an overall really chill, nice guy. Yeah, so I met him over coffee and he was like, listen, there is this entire concept of the roll-up play blowing up in the US. I've not heard anything in Asia yet. And this is June 2020. And I think my first reaction to him was, listen, the lesson I have learned from my life is things that happen in the US. That logic does not apply in India. India is a special creature in itself that needs to be understood, needs to be nurtured before you do anything. So I think that was the genesis of it. And I think my condition there was, I'm happy to explore this. Let's spend a lot of time talking to people. So it came down to let's talk. So from June to September, we spoke to about 400 odd sellers. right? Which is just 1 hour conversations with different sellers, different sectors. And we started seeing patterns. We started figuring out what was working, what was not. I still believe the beauty of this model is it cannot be venture backed. It is an operating business. Not it can be tech enabled. It's not a tech product, which means your growth rates cannot be insane. So it's not a pure venture capital equity business, right? The beauty of this business is you have to use debt the right way. You have to kind of structure working capital. It's a pure operating business. So I think there were a lot of levers to understand. So I think when we started talking to people, we started seeing patterns of where everyone is struggling, what's happening. I think the second big thing for us was really capital, which is capital like this going to be available in India? While I think we made this massive headline about $40 million and all of that, I mean, I go public in here and I say this, right? Like, we are the most frugal company ever, right? For us, we have debt. We cannot, $32 million of what we raised was debt.
Okay.
8 million was equity. And I say this on every interview, every candidate. I'm like, boss, we don't have $40 million to spend, right? And the understanding is the 32 million was purely for acquisition. You cannot touch it for anything else, right? So I think that was the interesting mix. It was interesting to we spent 8 months getting an American venture debt partner to India. It took us 8 months to figure it out and figure out the entire kind of structure around it. But I think all of that was learning. So for us, we basically said, there are 4 opportunities in India to build for that are large enough. There's fashion and lifestyle. There's beauty and personal care. There is F&B. And then there is the enormous home and lifestyle business. Fashion, I think it was more personal than anything else. I think with Style Bank, I was like, I don't want to do anything fashion-led again in my life. So I will be very honest, I was like, no. And I think in hindsight, I was like, thank God. I think big players came in this sector and we didn't touch it. Beauty and personal care, we had a lot of conversations with a lot of budding D2C players. I think what became very clear was brand building in India takes money. And I think that game is a very different game. And you're going head on with venture capitalists from valuation point of view. And you can't build a centralized engine for it. The answer is, it's very personal, it's very individual. You can't build very large brands, was our thesis. And we were not the people to do it. F&B, we didn't even touch. We spoke to many people and we were like, it has the complication of fashion and beauty and much more.
Yeah.
And then we stumbled upon home and sports and discretionary buying and utility. And I loved it. There's nothing sexy about it. It's one of the most boring pieces. But we realized so much of these discretionary buying were happening on Amazon and Flipkart. A very small sliver was happening on D2C. The market is so large, so broken, so informal. And because these were not brands but labels, we could buy them cheap, which is we bought our entire portfolio for less than 1x revenue.
Give me a sense of what categories you have bought. How many companies have you bought till now?
8.
And give me a sense of the categories.
Yeah, so we went home, kitchen, and sports.
Okay.
Right? Sports was like a byproduct saying the problem statements are the same. So let's try doing sports also.
Sports is what, like football?
So let me break
gym
it down. Right? The first business we bought was a kids room, like soft lines and hard lines business. One of the biggest Amazon sellers for everything to do with kids. We went here because we knew the segment is not as large. It was also a business we knew we would break because we had to learn so much. And we didn't do majority acquisitions. We did 100% buyouts. So for us, it was literally, here's the money. We buy the whole business. Next day, we run the whole show.
Founders are out after that?
Everything. So we do clean buyouts.
But founders don't stay for even a year, 6 months, 3 months?
And I think a lot of people ask us this question, right? And again, this is not a brand. And I think that was what was very hard for us to explain, where there were 2 things for businesses like this, which are marketplace first, right? It was making sure all of your vendor relationships transfer to you because your sourcing lines need to be clear. And the second one is all of your seller accounts. You just need to understand your mapping pricing a little bit. All of that went into diligence for us. right? And we realized that unless we bring this in-house, there's no chance we will learn. And if you don't have 100% control in these businesses, there's a lot of financial leakage because it's cash. And we could not afford that because there's so much debt. So I think for us, we were very clear. Let's buy a small business. Let's break it if we have to, but let's learn. Of course, we had a great relationship with the founders where we were like, listen, here's the money, chill, be available, because there are earnouts built in. So there's only a benefit for them to kind of help us. And there's a very strong relationship there, right? And imagine, and you know how hard it is to run a consumer business with a team. These guys are usually single proprietors, running the whole show. So they were all like 15, 16-hour days, 7 days a week. And suddenly you're cash rich and suddenly you have time. So it was interesting. Everyone's still available on call. Everyone's still available for everything. But I think we were very clear, 100%.
How big were these businesses? So you have said eight businesses.
So we
what
did
are the categories?
different
There's
size.
Kids, but kids what? Sports for kids?
No. So we did kids as in soft lines, baby blankets, pillows, bed sheets,
Okay.
rockers, cradles. So it's called My Newborn.
Okay.
Everything for a baby and a child was basically theirs. We loved it, It's a small category and we were willing to play with this category. We broke it. We bought it. We didn't do anything. Then we fully broke it and we then built it back up.
Okay.
So I don't think this is a business we've exponentially grown, but we've brought back the value that we lost and we learned a lot in the process. I'm simplifying this. The minute you buy, transfer, take full control, mergers are hard.
Yeah.
And I think it was one of the reasons why, I don't know any merger that goes extremely smoothly.
Yeah.
It's very hard to take an entrepreneur and say, I'm going to buy your company and I'm going to tell you how to run it.
Yeah.
And I think that was the fundamental reason we were like, listen, this is a deep operating business. Having human variabilities in this is going to just mess it all up. So it was a very hard call we took of saying 100% buyout. Made our life hell. But I think it was one of those steep learning curves where everybody's actions counted. And we're a very small team. We're 45 people. And we run the whole show, right? So that was the first business. It was $2 million revenue. The second one we bought was KTS, Craft Seed. It's a garden and outdoor business that helped Amazon India launch the lawn and garden space. Oh man, that's a hard business. But us like champs, we love Gaurav. Gaurav is the founder. He's always available. He's completely there. 4,000 SKUs, right? So it was an operating like nightmare. Beautiful, 100% buyout again. So that was the next business that we bought. It's a lot of plants and pots, but we'd love to do outdoor furniture and we do grills now, barbecue grills. So anything with the outside of the house is that business. I think 3-4 million was when we bought it. That's how big it was. The third business was Orion. Very hard, Jalandhar-based business, one of the biggest Amazon businesses for home fitness. So they do dumbbells, punching bags, weights. We love this business because it's heavy and bulky.
Yeah.
And that is so hard to run as a business in India. And I think for us, that skill set was deeply interesting to learn. Struggled again, but I think as a business, it's been beautiful. See, again, none of these businesses grow 100, 200%, right? I don't know how people claim this in this environment. I think for us, we've bought cash flow businesses and the idea was buy it out 100%, grow it sustainably, increase ASP, all of those impossible things in India, do that. That's Orion for us. So everything to do with sports, fitness, outdoor, home gym is Orion for us. Then we bought a very interesting business. And all of these are $3-4 million businesses. For us, the last one was Scud Gear. Very high margin business, but I cannot put it in a bucket. It's everything, which is organizers, shelves, high margin, 25% businesses. Bought it. We bought it from a 27-year-old founder. Made a lot of money because it was quite a large business. And it was beautiful to see. He came from a relatively lower middle class family, worked for 6 years, day in, day out. It was beautiful to watch him cash out. He was the only one who said, listen, this is the baby I built. I cannot sell it. And if I sell it, you cannot call me. It's too painful. And we were like, yeah, we understand. We've done this a few times now, so we'll be fine. But those are the 4 big businesses. Then we got small, like 200, 300K businesses. And we also incubate businesses now. So we're like getting a little confident where we're like, acha, white space, let's incubate. But yeah, that's a flavor of everything that we have.
That's amazing. So, but what strikes me, Bhavna, is you buy businesses 100%. You could actually buy businesses 51% and still consolidate revenue. You want to take them and build them yourself, even though you're a much. Am I kind of?
No, I think it's a very fair question that we got asked, right?
I have evaluated 20 businesses to buy. Despite having a 250 member team, capital, and the ability to reach channels, I am afraid of taking on anything, even if it's completely adjacent to my business. I'm so scared of acquiring companies for cash.
See, I don't have a very clear answer, right? But anyone you. So I think there is this fear of will you destroy value? But I think it's super. See, I think Reiki. I don't know. Let me answer this, right? One, and that's what I mean. We have venture capital money, but we have a lot of debt. And that makes you disciplined on a very different level. You know, I think our goal was never to kind of go rake up revenue for the sake of it. And people have done that globally, right? And that's what I mean by I had so many conversations that I spoke to every founder in the US and Europe, and I asked them questions saying, listen, I'm going to do this. What do you think I should not do? You know, and even Carlos, who's the CEO of Thrasio, he was really nice to me. You know, he spoke to me many times and he's like, listen, don't buy too fast. Don't buy too many. Do little, learn. Do little, learn. There is no hurry. Right? And I think a lot of people, because they had capital, they just started buying businesses. And this 51%, the issue is, how will you buy the remaining? And you're going to spend a lot more to buy the remaining, right?
You need the remaining.
I mean, in a business like ours, that's not a brand. It's a label. It's a P&L label.
If you have financial control, it's okay, right? Like what
I
it's a
mean,
control
I guess the
transaction,
question
right?
here is, so I think the question here is, what does the founder do?
I find it almost impossible to believe anyone can run my company without me.
That's
Impossible. At my
exactly
scale.
why I think there is an issue with letting equity be on the table. The answer is
if
you're
today's, for
constantly fighting a battle with the founder, and the deal is you buy the company to change it, right? In a way where they've built an incredible business, right? But there is no data, there is no technology, there is undercutting at different places. You know, people don't get. I mean, there are many regulatory issues, right?
I get. My issue is you're buying a black box. However deep diligence, we both
Yeah,
know how
yeah.
diligences work, right? However deep your diligence is, it will never tell you the picture of the business until you start getting purchase orders and start making payments. Ever. Right? Even if you get access to AMS, this, that, and the other, there is, founders can always tell great stories.
Yeah.
And at that moment, if you have, at least what I've seen work with acquisitions is, if you have founders whose incentives are aligned to yours as a majority owner. Ki boss, we have bought this at 3 million and the remaining 49%, we have a call put option that at 6 million this multiple, at 10 million this multiple, and as an acquirer, you have to keep capital kind of shored up for going from 51 to 75 to 100 is what I believe is the best way to ensure growth. But you have taken a lot on yourself as a 15-month-old company, buying large distributed businesses in distributed geographies, in distributed categories. And isn't it a lot of pressure on debt that too? There's debt, there's distributed categories, there's distributed geography, there's a black box business which you kind of take 100% and then you have to figure it out, break it down and build it up as you said.
So I think there are many answers to this, right?
Lot of friction. Like, is it a lot of friction you've taken on yourself which may not have been required?
Yeah, so I think the answer is threefold, right? One, debt partners need primary charge when they help acquire a business. How does that play out with a founder in the mix, right? I think there are many such operating details of, I think there's that. I think the second one is, it's not that hard. So the answer was, I think people make it out to be a little harder than it is. Did we struggle? Of course. But I think the answer is the fact that we're running this business with 45 people and we run the whole show end to end. We do everything in-house. The reason we learned so fast, my entire leadership is still here. Nobody has left. Everyone's changed roles. Everyone's gone through hell. But it's that cycle, right? You come in, you say it's going to be awesome. Then you go through, like we have that joke where you go through like, oh my God, everything is breaking. And then you come back and you're like, oh, it's okay. So I think that's the answer. I think there are a lot more regulatory reasons of why we couldn't just leave anything on the table. I think it's from a revenue return point of view, the way the debt is structured, capital call, all of that. And net, Upper 90 is an investor in us. They were the first check into Thrasio. They've invested in 16 businesses of this nature globally. This is all they do, right? And I think one of their biggest things was don't go buy 10 companies. Go buy 4. Break one, take that learning, do it on the next, and see how you can start replicating it. Because if the minute you have founders, they will want to do it their way. And we started seeing that very easily, right? And I have been on the other end,
Founder, yeah.
And so has Deepak. And the answer is when you sell your company, you want to hit the person, And I think that's all of those things were the ones that we negated. And we said, listen, we hired really senior people very early. And today where I stand, I'm almost confident our operations are bulletproof. Like with this, we can do a buy and integration in 30 days now with our eyes closed. Because we went through hell. And now we know.
What are the enabling commonalities you have off the top of my head? Like, I'm just trying to understand your business, right? I'm assuming warehousing, for example, would be you could share performance marketing, at some level relationships with some of these e-commerce. Are these e-commerce first businesses?
They're only e-commerce. They're only marketplace first businesses.
You don't want to build D2C for them, or you don't want to build...
So I think the choices of staggering have been, we only paid money for Amazon businesses. Only, right? And you know why.
Yeah.
So I think the answer for us was we were reducing variability by not going too wide with operations. Yeah. So for us, we were very clear in 6 months of operating, which is when we really seriously started, because September to December, we just did acquisitions and it was sale month. So we said, don't break anything, don't touch anything. But January was when we started like seriously integrating, seriously like breaking things. Cloudtail went down, so that was fun. I mean, that was a different period altogether. But I think the answer there was, so we work on a hub and spoke model. Each business has one GM or key account person. They are the marketplace facing. Their only role is like, okay, Amazon, now how do I take this to Flipkart? What can I take to the other marketplaces? We run 10 marketplaces today.
Okay.
Right? So of course, Amazon and Flipkart give us the most, but our goal was this year, conquer marketplaces, and then next year get into D2C. It also comes with complications of positioning, packaging, what messaging. Are people willing to pay the right price? The honest answers for this segment, no. Right? So I think before you go jump into D2C, you need to kind of create your backend and your foundation, and then there is an opportunity. Like today, we deal with 150 vendors, right, for our portfolio. We were at 0 6 months back. So I think now with everyone, you get better. So to answer your question, the central function, let me talk about operations. It's headed by Vikas. Vikas was with Coke India for 19 years running their backend. I think it's his first startup gig. It was super interesting. Joined us in April last year. Did everything from Excel sheet to setting up, going to warehouse and counting. He is super senior, right? So mad respect for that, right? Which is literally at one of the Jalandhar warehouses counting and putting stock in, right? That's what he was doing. And now he has a pretty incredible team. So he does the marketplace ops, which is all the optimization, all the inventory planning, all the procurement, all the NLCs, all of the COGS, all of that, right? So that's completely him.
Inward, storage, outward, all of that.
Everything is under him, and he has a full
team.
20-member team that runs that. We actually ran our own warehouses till very recently, and that was hell.
That's why you asked me about KDL.
And I was like, dude, like really? But now we do it just like you, which is we have a professional service, but we have our people managing it. So that's the most robust part of our business. And we realized for the category that we're in, if we don't get this right, there's no point about anything else.
But this is a low complexity function, right?
What do you mean?
Like variables are known. Supply chain is, I mean, you would know. You would do demand planning. Like the businesses would are growing concerns, right? So you would probably know the SKUs. You would know what the cost base is. You would know what kind of COGS or gross margin upside you want to get.
Yeah.
You would know how much space you have.
Yeah,
like for me, supply chain is like 5% of my general.
You don't have as many SKUs as us. We have 7,800 SKUs across the portfolio. Yeah, it's a very interesting question, and I have an answer for that. Right? I think the answer here is when you buy these businesses, the only way they were growing were by adding new products. Right? So it was not very deep products.
Correct.
And that is the function of a marketplace approach where you don't have a brand position yet, right? So for us, the answer was, we were very clear. We were like, let's create the operational base first. Home discretionary buys and sports are very informal sectors. People are not willing to pay for this.
Correct.
So there is no point going and sinking money building a D2C business yet. This is a pure shelf kind of business, which is, it's a discretionary buy that you come onto Amazon along with 2 other things. You will put something else in your bag, and that is the market you want to capture. For us, that is a cash flow game right now. And hence there is the legacy of getting the SKUs. Do we look at it from a function of exactly what you said, which is what are your value creators? That becomes my D2C product. Then there are my less margin, high DRR ones, which are a pure performance marketing cash flow ones. There is the high margin one, low DRR, which is my deal business. Yeah. So I think it's a journey. The answer is we've got all of this. We will get our best sellers from here, and then we will build brand on top of that.
But isn't brand the value creator? If you buy something for 1x, the only way you can scale it in terms of value creation is if you are able to create brand. And brand is a proxy for one of 2 things. Either high premiums, which lead to higher margins, or high repeat rates, which lead to higher lifetime value. That's why brands are what they are, which is where you'll take a 1x multiple to a 4x, 5x, 6x, or whatever, depending on the category you're in. But that's where I struggle when they're like, at least even with Thrasio or all of the new models in India, the question I have is, it's a very personal thing. I struggle with creating value through one brand.
Yeah.
What products to add? How do I get consumer insight? How should those products be differentiated? The only way brands work is if your offering is differentiated across one of either price, product, whatever. Right?
Yeah.
But and you're only 3 founders. So how do 3 founders do this for businesses that are inherited?
Yeah.
And so wide in scale? Like you, Joel, and Deepak probably need to spend most of your time in value creation, not running the business. I'm assuming running the business can be done by Vikas and so on. But how do you guys think about creating value for these 8 brands or 8 commoditized businesses that you want to convert to brands? How do you do it?
Yeah, so I think it's a very interesting question, and I don't know if I want to go into the details of this because it's very confusing, and then we get asked 20,000 questions. I think my answer is very simple, right? I think we have to look at India as a market, and we need to be very honest about what percentage of India is actually the D2C market, right? And I don't know the answer for that. I'm sure you do, because I've got a different number from everybody. And for me, D2C is not marketplace, right? It is, of course, there is value that's created on marketplace, but when you look at a category like home, right? Home, kitchen, sports, which brand can you think of that's digital first, that has made it? And why is that? And I think I'd read your LinkedIn post about CAC and LTV, no?
Yeah.
Right? When you have so many so many different channels of distribution, how can you live in those times where you can't keep track of who's buying it? Yeah. Right? And you and me today, will we really take the effort to go on to a home D2C business to buy like a bowl?
No.
We won't. But discretionary buy is a very large part of pocket spend.
Correct.
And the answer is, if you're building this business, you need to crack this. You need to crack being available for when they want to purchase. Yeah. 80% of any kind of purchase in the digital space in these categories happens on Amazon, Flipkart, and the other channels.
Correct.
Right? For me, I'm optimizing for that right now.
But that's fine. But even there, let's say it's Amazon only.
Yeah.
If your brand is cut gear, it's
Yeah,
Amazon
yeah.
only, it's 2% of category.
Yeah.
You want to take it to 15% of category
Yeah.
and increase price by 25%.
Yeah.
It requires.
Okay, so
a
let me
significant
let
amount
me
of-
give you. I think it's a very fair question, and I think the answer here is I don't look at any of these. I call them labels. I don't call them brands, right? I don't call Scud Gear, KTS, Orion a brand yet. They're businesses and they're labels, right? The beauty here is they're not brands, and hence no one's getting penalized yet for quality. And that is what's broken in this ecosystem right now, right? Because everyone's playing the price game, 20% off, 30% off, which means where do you start building quality? And you can only slap a brand on something that there is a quality check for.
Yeah.
And that market is still evolving. It will get there, right? I mean, beauty is very new
Yeah.
as a concept. It's really just exploded in the last 4 or 5 years dramatically, right? And that's a new shift. I think the time for this sector is around the corner. It's a 100 billion opportunity in India.
Wow. So you're saying commodities, so you're saying that it's an unorganized, unbranded space of purchase.
Purchase. That is happening very less than 1 or 2% is happening online. And that is either dominated by old school legacy brands like a kitchen. You will talk about a Borosil or a Celio, right? But the long tail is so long and so fragmented, and there's no differentiation that is your opportunity.
Yeah.
But the answer there is that space is not willing to pay the price for what you need to correct quality yet. So in the meantime, for us, the answer is, to answer your simple question, we've bought businesses, we've put it in, we now have information, we now have data, we now have vendor supply sources, we have all of the foundational needs, right? For us, growth comes from taking it to a Flipkart, taking it to other channels, which are equally important and have a very different consumer base, right? And then you start learning what products are working. And exactly like you said, a very small segment of our products are value creators on some platforms, which means they have the right DRR and they're making us money. And there is a potential to kind of, where, we upgrade features, we upgrade products. We, of course, spend money on the winning products and we're like, let's test it. And now we've started slapping brands as a test on some and seeing, right? So I think these are all test cases, and we're building our foundation of saying, as we have our winners from this, we will create brands. And I don't think any of these will be Scud Gear or KTS. We will create our own. I mean, I think we can create an IKEA out of India, which is digital first. And I think that's the goal here. An IKEA or a Decathlon, which are digital first.
How will you do it when you're running 8, 10, 15 brands?
Because I don't run it as 8, 10, 15 brands. Maybe that is where everybody's getting a little lost, right? Our entire team works on all businesses except the one manager who deals with marketplaces. So all of our backend is by the same team, right? Vikas and team. Our entire pricing is done for the whole portfolio. It's the same logic. Our entire performance marketing team is central, which runs the whole portfolio. We have the catalog team that works across the portfolio. So we don't have 8 different teams. We have 40 people who work on everything.
That's the problem, no? For me, if everyone is working on everything, then no one is working on one thing.
There are 5 people that are P&L holders.
Okay.
Each of them are assigned only one brand. So KTS has one GM. They control pricing. More than anything else, they are basically the nook that holds everything together.
Who's looking at the consumer insight for product development / new launches / campaigns to build brand?
We're not building brand yet. I think that is the...
So if you're not building brand, you're building revenue. You're building revenue. Okay. Again, just forgive my complete amateur understanding of, because I come from a very different...
It is. So I think it's very, anything, and I think it's something that I've started enjoying, right? Because I see how can you do this without a brand? How can you do this without a brand? I think our thesis is a little upside down, and we're like, listen, we're building everything else. We need to fix quality. We need to fix packaging before you can slap anything on anything. And we're in the process of discovery where today I sell skipping ropes that are 79 rupees and 2,800 rupees and everything in the middle, right? And the honest answer is nobody has data points anywhere on what the consumer is willing to pay.
Yeah.
And we're collecting that. So the answer is, because I don't have a brand yet, there is so much that is forgiven. And it's beautiful.
Do you think you will crystallize out of this 3 or 4 brands that you will say, okay, because brand is where you get valuation arbitrage. You will not get it. I don't think you'll get it through operational excellence.
100%.
Personally.
100%.
I think you'll get it when you build out brands that people pay more for and more people buy constantly.
Yeah.
So your bet today, you, Joel, and Deepak's bet is, of all the businesses you buy, you'll convert coal to diamond in a way.
100%.
Right? By kind of cleaning up all the inefficiencies.
Yeah.
But let's say you buy 3 million business, you clean up an inefficiency, you'll take it from 3 to 7 million. So create 4 billion of value. You're not created disproportionate value, right? 7 to 70 million of value will happen if you're able to convert that clean vanilla business into a brand, hopefully.
Because you're still thinking, I think that's where there is an issue, right? See, I've not gone wide with my offerings. I've bought only home and kitchen, and I have bought only sports. For me, we will build 2 brands.
Okay.
Right? One in home, one in sport.
So this is
everything goes into that, right? And the answer is, if I had to challenge what somebody did out there building a home and kitchen business, this is my theory and I can be completely wrong. And it goes back to this conversation, right? You acquire a customer. This customer buys from you once. Unless you have deep range, they're not buying again from you for anything. These are not repeat purchases, right? So you have to have range. And with home, where you start bleeding is CAC, of course, because you can't account for repeat very quickly. 2, your back-end logistics, you bleed because this is heavy and bulky goods. And if you don't plan it well, you never make money. So I think our answer to all of this is, we are focused in a way where we're doing home, and that is our big bet. There is sports, which is our second bet. And the answer is, they're very similar from an operating model point of view. And we're going to build one brand each. So everything's going to converge under one.
Okay.
And that is already in the works. So the answer is, we're doing our back end. We don't have to go out there and do consumer research anymore, because we're seeing where the 75 traction is and the 2000 traction is. Returns are a great information. So I think nobody has any of this information, and we're sitting on quite a healthy business which is profitable. Right? So the answer is, I'm not putting money back into these businesses to run them. Again, the answer is, I'm not in a hurry to get this to 200% growth or 300% growth, right? The answer is, we've got our main working machine. We have to take this to new channels. We're learning every day about where price points are. We're learning what's working and what's not working. This information does not exist.
But on brands, one of the things that I struggle with is this Bombay Shaving Company or not? For example, any decision. Is this store a Bombay Shaving Company store? Is this product a Bombay Shaving Company product? Is this consistent with our current brand language, our current brand offerings, our current consumer group? How do you, and this is when you build a brand top down, but you're building a brand bottom up, which is a very interesting way to do it, right? Which is a Solimo or an Amway kind of, it's a whole collection of thousands of SKUs, by the way, but we'll figure out a way to make them consistent. So for you right now, it's about consistency in offerings and culling out stuff that may not work in the Uber 2 brands.
I think India is so large. I want to build a brand for 40 million, 50 million consumers in India at minimum. I don't want to build it for 2-3 million consumers. Right? I think this category deserves a 40-50 million consumer play, and it's not just a price game, it's a volume game.
Understood.
Right? And I think it's an interesting way to build it. And I think what we're very clear we're doing is, we're operating, we're making money right now. And that's what I'm trying to say. We're going with zero assumptions. And maybe this comes from me, right? Saying, if you say this is what my brand stands for, you start looking at only that. But here, literally millions of data points are telling you what people are willing to pay, what's going wrong, what to correct, how much quality to expect, And I think that's very different for this category, which is, people will pay 400 rupees and maybe they're okay with it lasting for 8 months. You don't have to give them a product that lasts for 3 years.
Agree.
So, I think that is my simple answer. And there is a lot of, where is the brand? Where is the value? And we're like, Arey, who's building such a large business here right now? Let us collect the data and we'll show you data points of right now we're making money. We'll keep making mistakes. We'll keep making money. The data is telling us very clearly what's working and what's not.
No, it's very interesting. It's an amazing bet, because what you're saying is you'll convert commoditized categories into brands. You'll figure that out, which is, I think, fair.
Yeah.
It is frictional. It is very,
Yeah,
very,
yeah,
very
yeah,
think
yeah.
of this as a very noob assessment. But the belief is that you'll brand commodities, you'll create synergies of consumers and operational excellence, like you're talking about. And over time, you'll crystallize a focus, 100 SKUs that you'll be like, this is my 80% of my business. Here are the 2 brands. By the way, consumers are shared across. And now I'm across 10 channels. And I've taken, you've put in all 40 million into acquisitions?
No chance.
Okay, if you put in X into acquisition,
No, I'll give you the numbers, right? See, that's the answer. There's no hurry to do anything here. We've used only 6 million of the debt.
So 6 million at 1x is basically 6 million of revenue you've kind of
We bought more than that. So we used equity also for buying. We did 50% equity, 50%
12 million of companies you've bought.
We bought 10 million of companies. We've grown it to much more.
What have you grown it to?
We grew it by 70% this year.
So you've grown from 10 million to 17 million basically.
Yeah, 17 with positive cash flows.
Did you always buy positive cash flow business? Or are you saying the
Always.
positive cash flows increase also?
No, so it decreased, increased everything. So I think the answer is I didn't give you an absolute number, but the answer is we don't take fresh capital and infuse it to grow the businesses. We rotate cash flows between businesses to make it happen. And that's the goal here.
Absolutely.
Right? Which is, we are in an inflationary environment. I mean, COGS is insane. Shipping is crazy. But I think the answer is you mix and match, and month on month it changes.
No, that's amazing. Like buying, like you are very, very, very tempted to buy a cash flow business because they're zero mortality and zero liability businesses. The question is, can you grow something which you have not, like which you don't understand fully? For me, like we had some Ayurveda business, etc. Like मेरे को आता नहीं यार.
But you have I think that's, and again, right, it's a very unusual process. And I think what people need to understand is the people who bet on us were Fireside. They're pure brand guys.
Yeah.
Right? So when we told them this, they were like, oh shit, this is crazy. What are you saying? But I think there is a thesis to this, right? Which is why are there so many graveyards in the home space that tried? And I think that's a question many people have to ask, is because this is a pure operating business that you have to get right. Then you need to take your bets. I have 7,000 SKUs today. I can launch a brand in Jan with 100, 200, 300, 400 products, and I have that information. Yeah. And I can spend the next 1 year building it. And I think the answer is, India can never have one brand answer for everything, right? Like, I think the question for us is, will we be able to do a slightly more premium play? And can we do a slightly more mass play? And we have all of the back-end operation, and we then focus our energies on launching this one brand that can cater to both. And we already have the information that tells us which product is working and how much people are willing to pay. Let me ask you the question.
Yeah, word.
So now that we're 48 hours into your viral post, and I'm just like, wow, to a point where my mother sends me the message saying, what is your opinion about an 18-hour workday? Yeah. And I'm like, oh, wow, this got really viral. How do you feel? I mean, I think there's a thing that there's an opinion, and there's always everybody's opinion that comes in. But I guess this one got a little more than, how are you reacting? How are you feeling after all of that thick skin that you say you have?
I do have thick skin. Like I've been in meetings all day. Yesterday I was fully productive. I went to sleep on time. I exercised in the morning. It's not affected my happiness at all. I do feel 2-3 things. I think my eyes opened up a little bit to it when my best friend messaged me saying, "Hey, I don't agree with you." And I was like, "Why?" He like, "You," and I've been with him. He's been a banker with toxic bosses for many years. And he said, when I read this, I felt belittled at my workplace. And I was like, that's an interesting point of view. I didn't think about that. Because I think that message for someone who is working hard, doing their best in a situation where the environment is genuinely toxic or they have a bad boss, etc., came across as, I think I represented all the bad bosses in and I don't blame people for thinking that. So that's when I realized, okay, fine, I think context was narrow and nuance was needed. However, I think, and I've been disagreed with a lot, and I'm very comfortable with it, and I have a lot of conviction in my point of view. And genuinely, I also change my point of view very easily. I'm not someone who's very stubborn intellectually. Yeah. But this time, I think what happened was, the leap people made from entrepreneur to slave owner was quick. right? And then it became a very venting place for people to say, you know, and I think I worded it also fairly casually. I should not have done that. I think I worded it as rona dhona mat karo, you know, put in all the effort, 18-hour work days, which I think I just meant to say, you know, take it on the chin and be relentless because you have maximum opportunity, minimum responsibility. And you have a max energy, yeah, 22, 23-year-old.
Yeah.
Kaam karo, don't be distracted. But I think for me, Bhavna, it became a little tricky when parents started getting WhatsApp messages saying you've raised a slave owner, or, you know, hate of that nature, which becomes difficult to explain, defend. You don't know how to deal with it. And people in your company are very conflicted because they're like, this guy's a really chill. Like, honestly, I'm a chill guy. Very, with my company, I'm very chill. So I think it led to more complication than it's worth. I don't think the opinion were, it's not like...
So once the emotions settle, which it will, right? I mean, we all have the attention span of a lizard, of butterfly. I don't even know what, right? Like the next thing is going to blow up. Do you feel like after you reflect on this, because you've touched a nerve, right? And with unintentionally touched a nerve, you would have not been like this. You would have been a little bit more careful, I'm sure. Now that we've had a conversation, I'm sure you're not, you know, you will not be inconsiderate, if that's the word I can use. But I think that's the answer. Do you feel like going back and saying, hey, you know, I put it like any other post, and here are my lessons that I learned, which is, here's the good, this was my intent, but I realized that this is what I was.
Yeah.
Do you feel like people are more forgiving in a way where they'll come back and they'll say, okay, emotions have passed, and now here's my statement that I've put across, and it's a lesson I learned?
Which is what I did today. But
you said, I'm never putting up another LinkedIn post. That is just stupid. That is like, I'm going to do more drama here. You will not hear anything from me. But that's not the answer.
It's not worth it. The hate was not worth it. I don't derive...
That's an interesting...
I don't derive any benefit from putting on LinkedIn. Neither does my business. I don't get paid for it.
Sure.
I don't get real validation.
But I mean, then going back to why did you do it? And I think all of us are doing it, at least people who are putting out thoughts that are borderline not diplomatic, is coming from a place of, hey, here's my opinion that no one else seems to be voicing.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it for the small sect of people who want to hear this.
Correct.
Right? So it was feeding you back some level of, hey, this is me doing better, or this is me trying to do my bit.
No, I agree. I did it because I felt like my candor was needed by people, or I had access to mentorship and advice, which a lot of people today may not have directly. So this was my way of kind of giving it. I just felt I can continue doing that, but publishing publicly, where you are vulnerable to being misinterpreted, people who don't know you at all, kind of just, everyone has a voice, and without context it becomes, you suffer. Like I suffered for the last 24 hours. I can tolerate it, but I don't think it's worth it.
So I think there's a lesson there, right? And that's what I want to... I'll push you and I'll ask you why I'm asking you this, right? Because I think there are two ways to look at this situation, right? One, you hit a nerve. And now you know that this is a big problem. And it seems to be like a underlying problem that everybody has a deep opinion on. It's troubling everybody in some way. For me, I would have looked at this as, damn, I hit a gold mine. You know, now let me shut up for some time. And then let me start asking people questions about how to solve for this. How do you help people understand what they want? Because this seems like a universal problem that everyone seems to have such a deep opinion on.
Yeah.
I only say this because, let me flip it into my favorite topic, right? It's damn hard to be a woman in the ecosystem, right? And I'm not founder, of course. I think founders is hard, but I think anyone, right? Because you're getting into a system where you think, talk differently. Your opinions are different. You know, now you have a choice. You state your opinion. It can be in the most polite way, but the person opposite you, chances are, does not resonate with you and does not agree with you. And hence the backlash is hard, which is, your discomfort has been extreme, but imagine doses of this discomfort every day, right? And it is the reason why people fall off at different points, right? And I think that's my question, where if people like you say, man, this is too much, this is where I say, or you take it and you process it and you say, shit, I hit a nerve. Now, how do I be more diplomatic about saying I'm going to solve this? I think that's the way I look at a bunch of these problems, which is, when people react so badly, you know there's a fire there.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh damn, that is what I'm gonna solve over the next few months. And I may not do it directly, but I'll find people to do it.
No, I agree with you. So I don't want to go into a shell, become
Yeah.
cut off, etc. My only reservation is to publicly post things. I will continue to invest. I will continue to mentor. I'll continue to be part of social situations.
But trolls exist, yeah. Trolls are part of life.
But
I know it's a personal question, right? I mean, it's something
I
that
agree with you.
I ask myself all the time. I'm like, I mean, because we spoke about funding, I'll tell you. I think the piece that I made, see, I got into the big boys game. I went for the big shot and I'm like, dude. And I tell everybody who joins my company, right? I'm like, 90% chance of failure is there. That is on day 0, right? Next, you have joined a company that has 3 co-founders, but a woman CEO.
Yeah.
And capital comes to the CEO.
Yeah.
Whatever anybody says, capital comes to the CEO. 2% best capital comes to women. So 90% chance of failure, 2% capital pool. You decide if you're willing to take this risk. Right? And I think that's a very open conversation, and it's almost like something that I've made sure in my head, right? And the answer is, and we have a standing joke in our company, which is 1 in 100 pitches potentially see success. Is that the metric for men? With women, it's 1 in 300. Right? So in my head, I'm like, 300 pitches I have to do to close a round.
Yeah.
Now you make peace with it. Right? Which is, how do you start enjoying this processing? You know, it is what it is. The odds are stacked against you. But if people like you and me don't do it, who will do it? How do you push the needle a little bit?
Yeah. I sometimes wonder whether it's worth it. That's the only question. Because
I mean, if I had asked myself this question, I would be sitting some beach right now like, life is too short for this crap.
Your context is absolutely right. No, I'll think harder about it.
You should.
You made me think harder about it. My current belief is I lose nothing. My life continues the same way. I just don't take this pain.
But life is, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, my friends joke, right? They think, like, one of my closest friends looked at me that day. I was going through a shit day. Some dude had said something really shit to me. And like, full anger. And she was like, why are you being this activist? Why? She's like, can't you just shut up and do your job? Why are you fighting everybody's battles? And I'm like, dude, if I don't fight, I mean, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have nothing to lose, which is I have a great life. I have a great set of friends.
Yeah.
I'm in okay health.
Yeah. Some people say that, right? That talking or speaking your mind hurts. So don't do it, which is where I'm kind of whatever. I'm in that park for this, this temporary phase of my life. But staying quiet hurts more.
It'll hurt you more, I think.
Yeah, that's the issue. It didn't hurt on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. I kind of don't miss that at all. LinkedIn I might, because it's a place where I genuinely feel I reach people professionally, founders, etc. It's the trigger for the barbershop was the fact that on LinkedIn people started saying, hey, we want to learn more, we want to know more. I would engage with other founders who would like put stuff up, and then there would be like long threads. And I'm like, cool, that's interesting conversations. I think I'll miss LinkedIn a lot more.
100% you'll miss it. I'm 1/100th of what you do because it's very early, but we spoke about this, right? For me, I realized that it doesn't affect my business in any way.
Yeah.
It doesn't get me money. On the contrary, it actually, and I'll tell you the truth, like after a bunch of pitches, the feedback that's come back is, Arey, Bhavna's very vocal. She will say too many things. It's too dangerous.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I mean, I've been asked to tone it down. I've been asked to be more diplomatic. Money will not come. And I'm like, man, don't you think all of these are excuses? I mean,
fuck.
Yeah. So I think the answer is there are different reasons, but then you have to choose you need 1 in 300. So
yeah. But tell me about, and I know you'll be asked this on every panel discussion, on every interview, but I wanted to get deeper because it's a topic that I think I care about fundamentally for 2-3 reasons. I think I've failed in women representation at Bombay Shaving Company at the senior levels. Management team of 15-16 people, only 2 women. We fundamentally struggled because we were a men's business for the longest time. So recruiting women was hard. We at the overall level, we have I think 45% women at a company level. At the senior level, we have fewer. And we want to change that. At an investor level, we have around 35 investors, only one or
you have
two.
35 investors?
Almost
Achha,
20, lot of angels, right? 20-25 angels. But all men, only 2 women.
So I know this metric and I should check again. Angel is somebody, and I was actually trying to do some work and then I was like, too early. I need to first focus on my business and then I'll do this because I don't have more than 24 hours a day. But the system is broken from the angel investment round, right? I mean, it's a whole cycle, right? And I don't know where to start addressing this. So let me start with women itself, right? And it goes back to the theory that I spoke about, how you're brought up. And as parents, if you start protecting your daughter, and unfortunately, India is not the safest for women. There are problems women face that most people can't comprehend.
Yeah.
When you walk down the road, men never have to worry about being groped or stared at. You all don't understand how invasive that is, right? And all of us start normalizing it. Like if you stay outside and you come back, the first few days you're like, why is everyone staring at me? And then after a month you don't feel it, and after 6 months it's zoned out, right? And that's survival, right? But it's always at the back of your head. I think my standard joke has been, when men get into a cab and women get into a cab, women are like freaking alert. Men actually pass out. And I'm like, dude, how could this man sleep? It's so great. Such fundamental issues. And because of all of this, the way we bring up our daughters is very different. We protect them. We take care of them. When it gets a little hard, sometimes we say it's okay. Don't worry about it. It's coming from concern and care and love. It's not coming from you're not adequate enough. And I say this to all my friends who are parents now, right? I'm like, man, I love your child, but please make your child resilient. Like, don't overprotect. Your child will not break, but let your daughter fall. Let her pick up her own stuff. Let her fight. Let her learn. Because the more you protect, the more she's going to get worried. And this happens at different stages, right? This happens at where you go to study, what you go to study, a lot of times after marriage. These are breaking points, right? Because they're like, "Arey, why should you work? It's difficult, and I don't think it's coming from, we don't want you to succeed. It's difficult, yeah, don't do it. We can afford to and all of these are points where it breaks. And I mean, if you look at our numbers, our numbers have fallen to 6-7%, right?
It's crazy.
I have a conversation with somebody on my team who's getting married and wants to drop off, who is having a child and wants to drop off, doesn't want to come back after maternity leave. And I understand. But I think my single role is getting onto that call and saying, dude, if you fall off now, you're doing yourself the biggest disservice. We will figure it out with you. But have a conversation before you throw the towel in and say, I'm done. I think there's that. And I think there's a second thing which I struggle with a lot, which is, I think I talk about being this fearless so much because I think women are really afraid to fail. And it's conditioning, right? I think if you fail, somebody will come protect you and say, stay at home. So I think that I love watching young founders and men be so carefree, right? They're like, big shit, I'll fail, I'll move on to the next thing. Very few women talk like that. Very few. And I think that's the biggest hurdle to get women into the ecosystem, because there's so much pressure of, what happens if I fail? Will I be allowed to do this again? Will I be protected? And I think that is my thesis of the underlying thing.
That's an incredible point of view, because the more you say it, the more I think about women, friends of mine who are entrepreneurs. Women are also on a weirdly strict clock.
We're very time poor.
One is because parents will tell you to come at a particular hour for safety, etc. Then biologically, you have to have a child by X. If you want a child, if you don't want, that's fine. But if you want to have a child by 34, 35, latest. And that's how biology is. But again, I'm sure a lot of this time-bound things which is why women are generally more disciplined than men on time. Just generally.
We are time poor. Yeah, right? It takes you 5 minutes to get ready.
Yeah.
Take small things like that, right? Which it takes women 30, 35 minutes to get ready approximately. You're wasting that much time.
Yeah.
There are so many things that add up. And I think what you said, I think the troubles is not just work. There's social trouble, there is pressure on the outside, there is safety trouble. There's so much of the other hard stuff that adds up that collectively you're like, man, what can I give up?
Yeah.
But that's short-lived, right? I think any woman you meet, the minute you lose financial control, you start giving up on a lot of other things. So I think it's a vicious cycle, and it's a hard one. And I think it's as much on women to correct it. And I really hope more women start and fail and just say big shit. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I know.
Just big shit. Like, nobody cares. Everybody has attention span of lizard.
Yeah, and also like for example, angel investing, the propensity a woman would have at the same income levels to put some amount of capital into
Risk averse, right?
off, yeah,
Risk averse.
it's much lower. I always wonder.
I was actually trying to start something, and then I was like, again, like I said, sometime in life I'll do it. I think there are 100 active angel investors in women in India today. 100. That's how many there are. 100, and they write I could be wrong, but I got this number from AngelList. There are 10,000 or 12,000 active angel investors in India, active, of which 100 are women.
Only 1%.
Lesser than. And that's where it's broken.
I remember a friend of mine, Shalab. I don't know whether you know Shalab, who now is the chief growth officer at Noise.
Okay.
Ran his own company called Akiva,
Okay.
which used to make
Yeah.
shorts
Yeah.
and all that. He's a very good friend. And he had taken a new office for Akiva at that time in the Oyo, co-working space. And we were just generally talking. And he's one of the most thoughtful people I know. And he said, dude, I never realized that typically office real estate people will assign the same square footage to a male bathroom as to a female bathroom. But there are 3 stalls in the female bathroom. But in the men, there are 6 or 8 urinals. Men typically take less than 45 seconds to do their job and leave. Women will go, close the door, take off the clothes. So it's probably 3-4 minutes at the very minimum. If they're wearing sari, even more. Plus less a number. So there is a long line. So for a woman to pee, it takes 15 minutes in my office. For a guy to pee, it takes a minute. Why is the allocation equal? Men should have 30% because that's how you... I'm like, that is so true. And then you're like, ये तो हर चीज में होता होगा उनके साथ. I was like, that is so true.
But it's true. That is, it accumulates. And I think the standing line is that, right? We're time poor. And hence everything, we're quite efficient that way, right? We like start deciding things. We're like, chalo, jaldi. But that's it. It all accumulates, right? Imagine taking 2-3 hours of your day away. And it accumulates. So I think there are many reasons. And again, I don't want to say, I think we all have to accept that the system is broken. I think it's changing, and it's changing beautifully. Is it changing fast enough? I don't think so. And I think people, I actually on my website, I don't know if you've seen it, and it was hilarious. I wear a feminist t-shirt.
Yes, I have.
Right? And the amount of drama I got for it, I was like, guys, come on. I've not even started operating. Don't tell me what to do. This is my truth. This is what's going to drive me. If people are going to get upset that I'm calling myself a feminist, they need to read and see what it means, right? I have a fully male board. I have 2 male co-founders. I have a pretty damn good male founding leadership team. I respect all of them. Some of my closest friends are the most incredible men. My husband is an incredible man. So it's not like I'm anti-men in any way. I'm very pro-men, and I'm very pro-men who want to be allies and bring change. And generally, I talk more harshly to women. And I'm like, dude, you need to keep up. Don't give up, So I think it's you hold your ground and say. And I think my answer to this is I don't have a brand yet. So very little to lose.
No, that's not true. I think it requires a serious amount of courage because I think, how do I say this? I think the backlash on women who are vocal is 100 times more brutal than the backlash that, for example, I got recently. I don't think it's even close to what happened.
So I'll tell you, it's not a secret. I don't have to name her. One of a very, very senior reporters basically called me, and they hound me every 3 months. I'm selling to somebody else from what I know, right? Like every 3 months they tell me who I'm selling to. I'm like, acha, okay, fine. Okay, I'm selling, run the story. And I'm like, I get your business, man. You need clickbait headlines, go for it. But I had a drink with her very recently, and it was the first time I met her, and I was like, and some of the stories from the last, this is a little controversial, but I'm just going to say it. Think about the global takedowns that happened for women CEOs, right?
Elizabeth Holmes?
Everyone, even back home in India, the ones that kind of get taken down. She actually gave me a metric, and she said, it's modern day witch hunt, and these stories perform so much better than male co-founder takedowns. It creates more fear, right? Like, I think as a female CEO, I was like, man, after 7 or 8 years, if I get attacked like this, is it worth it? You start asking yourself, is it worth it questions? Of course. I mean, there is fraud and legality and all of that, which none of us will ever know the details of. But I mean, if an Elizabeth Holmes is where she is, I know it's a little bit more complex, but an Adam Newman gets $350 million.
That's crazy,
That is the world we live in.
Yeah, that's crazy. Another founder friend of mine told me this very recently, a couple of months back. He's one of the most intelligent and, measured people I've met. I don't know whether you know Siddharth at Tribo.
I know of him. I don't know him.
He's in Bangalore only. You must meet him.
Okay.
He's a lovely human being. So Siddharth told me, and we are all this is a McKinsey founder group. It's a very cozy group of people, right?
Cozy. Did you use the word cozy?
Yeah, I mean, we're very close to each other. We kind of back each other up. We invest in each other's businesses, etc. Right? And he said कि यार बिना एविडेंस के अगर फाउंडर पे रेपुटेशनल चोरी का अगर इल्जाम लगाए, then there has to be a law that until it is proven,
Yeah.
it has to be kept like.
You have to keep it quiet,
It
yeah?
has to
You're
be
killing
kept
somebody's
confidential.
entire, yeah.
And he's like, because tomorrow, if anyone gets acquitted and it's proven that they were innocent,
Yeah.
the damage was done.
Of course, damages. Exactly. It's so easy to pull somebody down. I mean, that's the thing, right? It's a function of being disconnected. It's a function. And again, I go back to her telling me that, like, we got along, we had a drink, and I was like, man, like, what is happening, She like, the truth is these stories do better. She like, there's data to prove these stories do better.
The word is witch hunt, by the way.
But it is witch hunt. It is modern day
It's a
witch
very
hunt.
female word. If it's done on a male founder, it's still called a witch hunt. The word has female back.
I mean, so is a bitch.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, that's all, it's times are changing and stuff, but these are factual pieces that everybody needs to know. I think it's something I have made peace with, saying I think if I falter, if I make one mistake, I'll get hit 10 times harder. But big shit.
Yeah. Do you face that when you raise capital?
Oh my God. Oh, we're getting there. We're getting to that question.
No, but like, is it real? Like,
I think people are very scared I will like cancel them. So most people are very, I think this ecosystem has also evolved where people are very measured with what they say. But it's also a very small ecosystem. So I think when people talk outside of me and within like groups, now I have enough friends in the ecosystem to tell me what the back gossip is. I've got the cliche, like it's so exhausting to hear the same damn cliche, which is I've been married 3.5, 4 years. I'm childless. What happens if I get pregnant? I was like, okay, 2022, we're still talking about the same shit. So there's that worry always.
has anyone asked you directly?
No. No one can. No, I will cancel the shit out of them. No one. I think that level of maturity has definitely come in where you can't. So I think that's one that's happened, and it's something we all know. It happens at corporate. It happens at every stage. It crosses everybody's mind. I think it's a valid concern. It can happen.
You think it's a valid concern?
I mean, I think, I'm trying to be practical here, right? Which is, I'm not an idiot. I'm not building a company that will fall apart for 2 months if I'm not there. I have co-founders. I have an incredible leadership team. If I get pregnant, I have 9 months to collectively figure out a short-term plan of what can happen. And if you're investing this kind of money in me, have faith that I will navigate this.
Investors say this all the time. When if something happens in the company, founder is the one who loses most, etc. So apply it on this, right? That if the founder will figure out how to manage a pregnancy.
Of course. I mean, I think the answer is, this is the most common one that I got out of the way, right? I'm like, we all know it. Yeah. It's all happening. It's not said. It is spoken about the most. Yeah. Sometimes it's not even unsaid, but it is a factor. I think the most interesting and the most painful one, it took me a while to get through, is somebody to my face told me, I really like you. I really like your business. But there isn't enough data to prove that women-led businesses in India succeed or make ROI. He told me to my face. And I was like, but you're correct. Tu correct hai. I was like, but if you all don't give us the money, where the hell will we show you? And I think that's why the system is broken, and it will change, right? And now I have enough female women investor friends in the ecosystem, and I complain to them, right? I'm like, how many checks did you write to women today? The answer is they're also afraid because they have more to lose. Like, they have struggled to get into that position, fought all their odds, and if they make a wrong investment, they're screwed. So I think everyone's fighting the battle. It'll take a little while. But I think the interesting part here, which is my co-founders agreed for me to be the CEO. I think you have to remember the positives. The positives here are capital partners backed a woman CEO. And I asked somebody this recent question, which I get damn irritated about, because all these reports about, actually not irritated, I have to be measured about it, which is it's progress. Is it enough progress that we should celebrate and stop is my problem, which is what we say 15% of the unicorns in India are led by women, right? How many of them have a female CEO?
I have no idea.
0, I think. Nykaa was the last one, but that cannot be considered a unicorn. And I'm like 0, which means you're celebrating a valuation which has come on the back of a male CEO. Maybe she's running the show. I don't know. But I was like, isn't that the question we should be asking for progress, which is how many women CEOs became unicorns?
We are seeing a lot of people becoming founders. You think lesser women are becoming founders compared to men?
No, actually, the number has accelerated from what I understand. See, that's what I mean, right? Let me talk about the good, because I just don't. See, I think the answer is we should celebrate the good, but we should start changing the question so that we move ahead, right? So I think the fact that the numbers have grown to 15% women co-founders is a great sign. That number has changed over the last decade. Now we should change the question to saying, are you willing to back a woman CEO and not put, again, I don't want to be frivolous and say put a man to it, right? But that is the next big step, saying, are you willing to put capital behind a woman? I think with a lot more women starting businesses, I think, I have deep opinions here, so you have to wait. But I think early is getting interesting, right? Everybody has mandate to start investing early, writing small size checks. And it's beautiful to see the number of women coming up and starting up, right? And that's a step in the right direction. I think it's because of early stage funding, starting to open it up. There are enough programs in place. Where I think it is short is there's nothing beyond seed. It's pre-seed and seed. And I hate grants.
Yeah.
We're not in...
We're not.
We're not your
Charity.
CSR activity.
Yeah.
I get very irritated when I hear of grants, and I'm like, dude, back me and put your name to it, right? And you should have the courage to say you're tracking my ROI for you.
Yeah.
Like, if you give me a grant and there is no ROI on it, how will the data ever be formed?
Yeah.
So I think these are things that need to change. A grant is helping a lot of women start, which is great. But I think anything beyond seed is broken. And it is the next step. So we will change beyond seed, get into like growth stage with a lot more participation. It's going to take a while, but it'll happen.
The issue also is, I think, venture capital, seed to Series B, Series C venture capital is mostly men. You'll probably have like...
No kidding.
Right? Very one-off. This is mostly men, mostly non-operators, non-founders. And if you see backgrounds, typically engineers, IITs, boys club folks from the ground up. You don't blame them. That's how centers of excellence in India are formed, lesser women participation in education, etc. So you don't blame them for the conditioning.
Yeah.
But for them, a woman founder is a difficult to understand phenomenon generally.
Of course. It's also a risk, right? I mean, you're
risk
kind of,
because you don't know, na?
Also, you're betting on something that does not have data points.
Yeah.
And it is true. I mean, again, like I say, I don't blame anyone, right? It's the system, it's the structure. One bad bet, they'll fall 10 times harder.
Yeah.
So, will you bet on the horse that has data points saying chances of success is high? Yeah. Chances of success, because capital will not come, is low.
Yeah. Even I'm sure you've heard about the Elizabeth Holmes effect, right? Where women in the valley who look like her, there are founders in the valley who are dyeing their blonde hair brown or black, or putting contact lenses.
I wore a black turtleneck and black jeans that day, and I had red lipstick on it, and I did not think about it. I went for a meeting and I got such a lecture. They were like, dude, you look like her. Stop. I was like, I'm brown. I have no brown hair. What do you want?
No, but that's the whole thing, no? That's like it kind of affected hundreds of women founders.
Witch hunt.
Then. How do you build a team that is so much more experienced, possibly running businesses longer than you, but still respect/report into you, are accountable to you, and have a in especially given that you're COVID born,
Yeah.
more remote, etc. How do you build that?
I go back to my learning came from when I was 20
Uh-huh.
and I had to get 300 mechanics 20 years older to me together and listen to me. My single reality is if you say the truth, you say it with respect, you bring value, you take care of their problems. Age, nothing matters. So, it's a time process. And it's exactly what you said, right? You don't bring people who know more than you and tell them what to do. You find a way to say, man, this is the problem statement. How do we solve this? What can I do? Yeah. So my entire team is at 20, 25 years of experience. There is no way I'm going to go tell a Vikas how to run operations, right? But I can check on him, make sure, ask him questions, tell him what the problem is, involve him in issues that don't pertain just to him, but give him the larger picture. I think you have to make everybody accountable for what they're doing, right? And I think senior people like this leave a cushy job and come here and go through the grunt because they want the experience. So you have to give them good, bad, ugly together. And I think people become part of the oneness when you involve them in everything. And you don't. My theory in life is do not protect anybody. You only learn and realize. And I think the people who don't survive, it's okay. They tried. It didn't work out. But you want the people to kind of sit with you through the hard and the storm, right? I think that's my simple theory.
With mechanics, it's fine because intellectual arbitrage is very apparent. With Vikas, it's not.
No. Wait.
No?
What technical appetite did I have? I knew
not
nothing.
Not fixing the car, but I think putting a service station together, kind of being able to put a process in place, using basic management skills. Like as a consultant, I would be very comfortable going into a mine, going into a, where there is high intensity of labor, large number of people, where organization is required, large sales forces which are selling cement. Obviously, they know more about cement or about mining than I do, but there is value I add through organization, making sure processes are well documented, the whole consulting skill set. So I get being valued and respected and even reported into in that setup. You obviously are not a better mechanic.
Yeah.
But you are respected. But here, where business intellect is also something I struggle, to be honest.
So I think the answer is, I don't know. I've never asked them, right? But they're all there. They're all here 1.5 years later. We've been through the worst. I want to say maybe there'll be higher storms there, but I won't be concerned anymore. Like, we've really broken shit.
What do you do? Like, I can tell you what I do.
I'll tell you why I think there is respect, right? And they joke about how old I am. They joke about a lot of things that I say. Like, I was with Vikas today in a meeting with somebody much older. And Vikas was giggling through the meeting because he was like, man, I watched Generation Gap. You were saying something the dude did not understand at all. He was like, it was so funny. And I was like, yeah. I think they respect the fact that we're playing the big game, right? And I think they watched me take the risk. I think they watched me say, what's the worst that can happen, If we break together. It's okay.
Yeah.
And I think all of that brings respect, right? I think people are very afraid to take risks.
Yeah.
And yeah.
What skill of yours do you rely on when creating? For me, creating respect for me in someone's eyes is a very conscious effort. Especially in a reporting relationship. Because if you have 25 years of experience and you're 50 years old, there's very little I can add value to you from a knowledge standpoint. So I try to find ways to do it. What do you rely on?
I don't know if there's a method. So they think, I say this, right? I cannot be anything but this. I cannot. It's too energy draining for me. So I think for me, the answer is this is who I am. I think I've become that person where I truly don't mean bad to anyone. I think me getting angry and getting upset with somebody is a waste of my energy with them. Like, I'm very happy to cut you out and say, this is not working, goodbye. No, I've gotten very good at that. Like, I'm cut, doesn't work, go. I think for me, the answer is I'm pretty good at, and I think most women are, like, if I have to generalize, right? EQ levels are little higher,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
It's little higher, you are a little bit more. So I think everybody's pain points are a little different. And when somebody starts overcompensating, you know it's because the insecurity is coming from there. And you catch on to it, which is you have to, like, especially with such senior people, you need to catch on to it. And the minute you can address it respectfully, I think the job is done.
Yeah. Anyway, Ashish was on the show, the founder of Off Business. He said something very similar. Relating to people at an emotional level and letting them know you're like them
Yeah.
is super important, which I struggle with. I try to establish
How easily can you say, I don't know?
very easily.
Yeah, so I think that's ground reality, right? Like, you've hired experts. Why the hell should you know anything? You'll be like, man, I don't know. Like, what do we do?
Yeah. So, but the follow-on to I don't know should be, how do I add value to you? That's where I at least I put in effort.
I think the answer, this is my truth, which is, I don't think anybody's perfect. The minute you say, I don't know, and you say it as many times as you don't know, they will feel damn comfortable coming to you and saying, dude, I don't know this. What do I do? And it's not one answer for everybody, right? One is, there are many very senior people who worked in corporates who are very scared to take decisions on their own.
Yeah.
And, you watch it unwind over time, where you say, this is yours, figure it out. We mess up, we'll figure it out. They need that kind of validation, and then you start watching them blossom. There's somebody else who just doesn't want to take decisions alone. They have to run it past you, and you should be okay with it. You should be like, hey, everybody doesn't want to fly solo. People want that, and you should cater to that. Then there are people who don't want to report at all, and at the end of the month will say, ho gaya. Like, okay, great. So I think that's the answer.
No, I agree with you. What's the, I know this is a very cliched question, but I really want to know. Given that none of the businesses of this nature have reached vision level, kind of, they're all figuring it out as they go. Each one has tried to figure their own path.
Yeah.
You've found, hey, let's find commoditized categories, build a brand there on top, maybe it crystallize at the top, do a lot more debt than equity, buy cash flow positive, take out founders, 100%. That's your model. Mensa is different.
Yeah.
Global B is different. Goat is different. Upscaleo is different. And there are many more, I think. But where do you see this? Or are you saying, hey, no one has figured out where this is going to go. We believe there's fundamental value in accumulating businesses and allocating capital smartly. We'll figure out where this is going to go. Is that where you are? Or do you know where this is heading?
I always have a plan. So the answer is, there is always a plan and a goal. We're not married to the path. So I think the answer is, we're very clear we have to be nimble because there is so much happening. I think the answer is very simple. We're trying to build something that's from India for the world, right? And because we're building on marketplaces, the world is very easy to cater to. We'll see.
You seem to love taking on counter bets a lot, and it comes with a massive upside if things work in your favor. Because a lot of the things you're doing, in my mind, are like for me, for example, right? Launching a premium shaving business at that time seemed like a stupid bet. It still is a stupid bet, to be honest. So, but at that time was even a stupider bet because markets had not opened up, blah, blah, blah. Premiumization was hard. And people said, ki yaar, why do you want to do this? Mehenga razor kaun kharidega? Gillette to sab kharidte, blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, it's a lovely problem to solve because it's a tough problem to solve.
Yeah.
But tough problems to solve often give you very little wiggle room for failure.
Yeah.
So I had to change. My point is, I had to change very quickly
But
to other
that's
things.
what I mean. I think the answer is, we know where we want to go. We know we're taking a very weird path. But that's why my answer is, we're constantly nimble. The team is so small. The team is, nobody can believe we're 45 people, right? But the answer is this, we save. The intent remains the same. I think the path keeps changing often enough. And that's something all of us have made peace with, which is, we're onto something. We know there are 1,000 knives coming our way. But I think everyone's little bit let go of the fear. And everyone's like, man, we're having fun. Let's keep at it. We fall. This business is cash generating at the end of the day. Unless we really mess up or something really big happens, we have time to figure it out. But I think we keep saying this. And I love the fact that even after saying this, people wake up the next day and they're like, chalo. So I think that's great.
Yeah, it's a very cool, and I love the way you use the word break a lot, right? And it's what Bezos also says a lot, right? Break. I think Musk or one of these guys says it. Keep breaking things until something amazing comes out, right? That's the only way really.
You can't be satisfied, no? Like, you can't be like, "Arey, itna acha bana hai, wow." I'm like, "Arey, we're so early, yeah. We're like less than a year into operations. 20 things break every day for us. And now I love it, like in September, October, if you had spoken to my team, like we would get on a call, everybody was red-faced, everyone was like, life is coming to an end. And now 20 things have broken and everyone's like, acha, theek hai. What should we take care of? And I was like, wow, I've prepared you for life.
No, that's amazing. It's so inspiring to hear your story, right? I empathize with, and by empathize, I relate to, not empathize. It's not much to empathize. I relate to people who lived outside India, came back after school, kind of.
Yeah.
I want to actually touch on that a little bit when we were talking before we started about how leaving home early makes you more risk averse. Talk about that a little bit.
I think it all goes into that same thing of you start taking care of yourself, you start falling, there's nobody to like take care of the small things, right? It just starts making you a little less fearful, right? And it just comes from that, right? Like, I have this theory that, and it's not a theory, I say it out quite aloud, that, and it's the way I live my life. I think all of us spend 90% of the time thinking about ourselves. What the world thinks of us. How do we look to the world? Oh my God, did I do something wrong? It's just the way all of us are built. Nobody has the time to think about you. They may not mean bad but we spend so much time worrying about the world. I don't think anyone cares. And even if they do, the one thing that's certain is we're all going to die. And I'm like, then after that, what? Who cares?
Yeah.
So I think that's the answer, which is the minute you can start saying things like this. I'm not saying nothing matters, right? I mean, of course, I feel deep emotion. The fact that I can wake up and work the way I do, it's coming from a place of passion.
Yeah.
Right? But I think the minute you can distance yourself away and say, it's not the end of the world. I'll wake up tomorrow and I'll do something else. I think that only comes when you're not protected. And I think a lot of us get that very wrong in India. Like, my husband is a very independent man, but lived at home till he was 25.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, he was at home till 25, living at home. He's way more independent than I am. But I think I see people, a lot of my friends who still live with their parents, and there's nothing wrong with it, right? I think culturally that's who we are.
Yeah.
But it never prepares you for life, I think. I mean, so the answer is you don't know where your food is coming from. You don't know if somebody has cleaned your house or not. If you lost something is broken. You just don't know how to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And those are deep life skills, I think. So I think making money early, in any form, not too much, but learning to kind of make your money and manage it gives you a sense of, I think it's ecstatic in a way, right? And I think that's very important for us in this culture, in India, to learn. It is prevalent internationally, and I think it really helps.
Yeah.
And I think living alone, which is you have to face some shit.
Yeah.
And then it kind of makes you realize, as you get older, the shit gets a little bigger, but you'll deal with it.
Where do you see yourself personally? You're one of, you're a path-breaking founder. You're doing something people haven't seen. Like, I'm scared to do what you do.
But why are you scared? What is the worst that'll happen?
I don't like variables which are so many. I don't like model भी unproven है, पैसा भी बहुत चाहिए, founder भी नहीं होगा मेरे साथ. There are too many variables, and I don't like too many variables in a startup situation. Also, just 2 years old. So for me, like, I feel like if I'm a founder in that situation, I would want to knock off variables quickly, right? So. But you're a path-breaking founder. You're doing amazing work, and I'm sure, like you're saying, right, you'll figure out. Your goal. You'll figure out your path. But tell me about for you personally, Bhavna. Like, what does success mean for you personally? Of course, for 10 Club, it is what it is. But for you personally,
I don't know, success. But I think there's only one thing in my life that matters to me. One thing. And it's choice. I need to always have the choice.
What kind of choice?
Anything. If I want to do it, I can do it. If I want to walk out, I want to walk out. I think just everything.
Any responsibility, with the business and personal both, or just business?
Everything. Right? Like marriage was huge. I was just like, woof. And it's both of us, right? Both of us have been together for a long time. It took us a while to say, okay, let's get married. I love my husband to death and he loves me as well. But both of us know divorce is an option.
Yeah.
You know, kids is a different ball game. We're like, holy shit, if that happens, there is, oh my God. And that's scary, you know, to a point where we are people that, yeah. So I think the answer is, as long as I have the choice with anything, I'm good. That is success.
And do you think you have that today?
To a large extent. So, yeah, I don't think there is anything I would do that I don't want to do.
Biggest regret ever?
It's very hard to think, yeah. I don't know. And I'm not lying. Like, I can't think of... I have no regrets.
That's amazing, no?
I have zero regrets.
Biggest mistake ever?
Mistakes I've made lots.
Not startup.
No, I know. I mean, I think with people, right? I think at the end of the day, because I am the way I am, I do trust a lot more. I do waste time and, you know, I've all my life, you know, I'll be like, I always give the person the benefit of the doubt. And I've realized the person on the other end is not strong enough. You know, they'll wiggle out or they'll do something stupid. I think those are mistakes. It's usually people. I don't think it's... Nothing else really accounts.
When do you want to retire? Your husband retired. Varun retired 3 years.
I will never retire. Like I said, right, I have no hobbies. I'm not good at anything else. I'm only good at taking swings and I have zero fear of failure.
Do you want to play any sport, play any music?
Tried everything. Tried everything.
But now
so,
how do you like stay? How you still look really fit? How do you do that? Like, is this more all exercise, no sport?
So my new hobby is pottery. I love it.
Okay.
But let's see how long it lasts. Yeah, I mean, I do things like Varun hikes a lot. So we travel a lot.
Okay.
And I think that's very important for me. Like, it's very important for me to get out as often because that's change and choice for me. I work on the road and I'm very good at it, but that is choice, right? So we hike a lot. I do yoga. I do CrossFit once in a while. I have learned to eat healthy.
Yeah? Are you a foodie?
I loved food. I'm a little bit more disciplined with it now. So yeah, and like I said, I have great friends. So
do you invest in other founders as well?
I have just started.
Okay.
And I realized it's an important thing to do. So it's new.
Why?
Huh?
Why do you think it's important?
I mean, I think saying, hey, I will mean the best for you is very different from saying I'll put where my money. You know, I'll put my money behind you. And I can't say shit like grants are crap if I can't put my own money and say, hey, here's my money. And I don't put large sums, I put small. And I think that's...
How much do you put?
I put 1, 2, 3, 4 lakhs.
That's you're a part of the journey in
Yeah.
a meaningful way.
Yeah. And I'm like, listen, I'm here, I'm available, do whatever. But
That's amazing. How much money is enough money?
as much money that gives me choice at every stage in life.
How much is that?
I don't know. That keeps changing.
How much was it like with the last
So
time
I
you
think
calculated?
if you asked me this at 20, I would have said $1 million. Now I'll be like $100 million. Maybe 5 years from now, I'll be like 1 billion bhi kam nahi hai. I mean, you know.
There's one of our guests, Toshan, one of the most financially prudent people I've met, a senior partner in McKinsey, advises the best people in the world, etc. Right? He said there are 4 clubs: 1 million, 10 million, 100 million, and 1 billion. By 35, you're still a few years away from that, but by 35, decide permanently and make peace with which club you want to be a part of. And then don't waver. And then let your lifestyle be defined by what club you're a part of. So if you're a part of the 10 million club, work for 10 million, is 75 crores. And then make your lifestyle 75 crores. 2 houses, 3 cars, etc. But if you want 10 houses in the world, then you have to be a part of the 100 million club. You can't be part of the 1 or the 10. So be very clear about that. I was like, that's very interesting. I've never thought about it.
I think it's bullshit. In today's time, you can make... I think companies can be started at any age. And I think today 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds are starting very successful companies. And chances are they have so much experience. And wealth is only created in this format. Wealth is not created through employment or anything else,
Fully
right?
agree.
It's through equity.
Correct.
What's stopping me from starting like an insane business at 50 and becoming a billionaire?
You can't bet on it, no? You can't bet on starting an insane business at 50 the way you can at 25 or 30.
I completely disagree.
Because you have many choices. The amount of time you have to do it.
That's what I'm saying. I think this is... Yeah, I don't fully agree. And I think the minute you start saying this, people are in a hurry to define which box they have to be in. And for me, that is just the most disgusting thing to do, right? I'm like, man, I don't want to be defined by a box. I'm like, Arey, I'll do this now.
It's not defined by a box. It's about being comfortable living a life that you have agreed to live, because there is no upper cap.
So I have to tell you the
Let me
other...
reframe this. You will save yourself from dissatisfaction.
That sounds very heavy, yeah. I think we're discounting how nimble humans are. We have very short memories. At least that's how I'm built. Like when you ask me what my regret, I don't remember. I don't know if I regret anything. But I think the answer here is, maybe I am also saying this openly because we live a very minimal lifestyle. Yeah. We don't own shit. I don't get joy from owning stuff. We don't own a house. We don't own a car. So we don't, both of us are like that. We spend on travel.
Experiences.
Travel, and we don't live, like, we're very happy living with friends, and so we're not like spenders at all. So I don't think extra money changes my lifestyle in any way. Extra money will change how much I can give back. Yeah. And I think that's interesting. So whether that's 10 million, 100 million, or billion.
No, but I think money is the most sure shot
of choice.
Exactly. It's a sure shot recipe for choice.
That's what I mean. So for me, I will never say money is not important. I love money because it always gives me choice. But yeah, I think the answer is, I don't think at 20, if you asked me where I would be, I had no idea. At 30, if you asked me, I had no idea. I want to be that person at 40 also. If you ask me, listen, what do you want to do in 5 years? I'll be like, fuck, I have no idea. But I think that's cool. And I think you can make money at any stage, and you can hit one big jackpot before you go.
I completely agree. I think it requires one, right?
It just needs one, right? It needs one. It needs 1 in 300.
No, Bhavna, this has been such an eye-opening conversation for me. Like, you're such a pleasure to talk to.
Thank you.
And genuinely, like, what refreshes me is your intellect and your generosity to share it, both. And I wish 10 Club, you, Joel, Deepak, Vikas, Varun, and all your entire circle of people, your investors, the very best. Any way in which me or the team here can help, we would love to. But thank you for being a part of the barbershop, and for sharing with such candor, which is very, very, very awesome, and like you said, rare in today's age. So thank you for being a part of this.
Thanks for having me. I was really looking forward to this. I was worried whether we were going to go at each other, but that was also cool. But I think we did.
But did you have fun?
I had a great time.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.